So the first question we're going to ask will be question 1 on your list. And that question is, Aldergrove needs more natural passive parks, not baseball diamonds and soccer fields, within walking distance of the core for all residents to share and enjoy. What is your plan to secure more passive park space in Aldergrove?
Yeah, it's a great question, and this applies to Aldergrove, this applies to every community in the township. We need an actual plan for using the township-owned lands that we already have in our inventory strategically. So whether they're in the urban area or in the ALR, we could be using these uses that we actually need. What that means is we actually need a component of a new overall community plan specifically for our parks. We need to stop letting the developers do the job for us, acquiring these properties and splitting off these pieces from development plans. We need an actual township-led plan to acquire these pieces in areas that we can walk to, bike to, bus to. We can't just have all these massive regional parks that people provide to. I love Campbell Valley. Every neighborhood deserves to have a natural passive park of a substantial size within walking, biking, or transit. So that's part of the plan. We're going to actually use our township-owned lands that we already have. We're going to strategically acquire those that we have to by actually using ongoing revenue from the township-owned lands in the urban area, and we're going to have a parks plan.
I got Warren Keys written here, so I better make it short. So my first approach, actually, it's a very good question. I agree. The Parks Master Plan in the Township of Langley needs to be revamped. I don't think it takes into account our growth and the percentage of lands that we need to set aside for our growing population and the community. Another approach, I think, for parks and green space, particularly in Aldergrove, is we have an opportunity to do stormwater management that's called green infrastructure. These are ways to use trees and water courses in areas that are considered to be riparian areas and even parks in order to put trees there, to put green space, and to protect what we have. It actually has great economic value. The other thing that we can do is to use our climate action strategy, which we already have embedded and we discuss every year on an annual basis. I think there are many things that are covered there that would also include getting a greater tree canopy in Aldergrove, which is great. It also has stands of mature trees and to enhance Bertrand Creek.
Everyone makes a good question. I'm just going to make it short and simple. So I think what we have to look at is comparisons will be. So there's the problem we've had there, which was given to a bunch of developers popping up everywhere without a community plan. So we really have to look at overall as our community plans when we are building communities, which will involve development, which will involve preserving ALR land, which will involve increasing park space. It really comes down to the planning process to look at how we are building single family affordable housing, where the park space is going to be, are the schools going to be there, are the fields and hockey ice sheets going to be there. Everything has to be looked at across the board for the growing community that we have here. And so it's really going to come down to proper planning, forward thinking, and I think we have that plan for progress.
Thank you. So yeah, I think first we need to make sure that we're protecting and enhancing the parks that we already have. There's something what we call the Barber Ribbon Trail. So I'm very passionate about parks, and I believe that every community and every neighborhood should be in walking distance to a park that that you can enjoy. The Arbor Ribbon Trail is something that it wasn't my idea, but it's something that we need to really focus on because it's a trail that goes from the Fraser River all the way to the Canada-US border. And it's strategically acquired properties with a trail that you can actually walk through stretching from the Fraser River to the border. This is a plan that is actually in place in the township, and I think it would be something that if whoever gets on council, that we should all be promoting, because this would be a wonderful asset to our community, very similar to the Stanley Park and that people do envision and stop developers from developing Stanley Park.
Okay, we'll move on to question number 2 for the next block of 4. Question number 2 reads, we have a highway running through the middle of Aldergrove that causes congestion. How do you propose we address this issue?
So
I think we would love to stand up here and tell you that we can just widen the road or add more lanes each way, but the fact of the matter is it's just not feasible. It'd be, I think it's the number, it's $100 million investment or something that it's just not feasible. A number of proposals for overpasses have been turned down. In addition to that, if we were to go forward with something like an overpass, that takes away business from the small businesses in the course. So we need to have public discussion, forums, and work with the citizens to see how best to do this while, you know, planning on parking and walkability and just an overall plan that encompasses all of that without hurting the businesses in downtown.
This is a problem that all of us had for as long as I've lived here, and I think the answer that we should be pushing for is to put bypass lanes on the north side and the south side of the Aldergrove town limits in order to get the trucks out of the downtown core. We will never have a walkable, livable core in Aldergrove with the traffic that's already there, and there's no way I'm supporting 20 Fraser Highway through Aldergrove. Thanks.
My comments were in sort of the near term and then in the long term. And in the near term, one of the things that we need to do is enhance the walkability of the downtown core and remove street parking and time the traffic lights so that we got the maximum facilitation of traffic flow. In the long term, I think that the only way to solve the issue is to identify alternate routes to divert again large trucks and large vehicles through traffic around Aldergrove and around the core and leave the core of the business and community. It's a challenge because of the agricultural land surrounding this area, and I'm not sure what the solution would be. I'm going to be honest with you, but I think it needs to be taken into consideration about putting a ring road through.
Yeah, so this is definitely a tough one here with how Aldergrove is surrounded by the ALR, and then also there's the area of events that is owned by the federal government, which they're never going to get back. So it's definitely something I sympathize with people who are using that road. It is a nice thing for those community or those businesses that are in that community there, but again, it is a tough one that I'm open to any discussions on.
Okay, we're going to move on to question number 3. We are losing trees at an alarming rate. Climate action is required now. What will you do to protect and increase our tree canopy cover in both development sites and agricultural lands where our current tree bylaw fails?
Thank you very much for that very difficult question. We are not just losing trees, we are losing vegetation. We are in a crisis. We are in a stage 5 drought. It really isn't that great to see kids in a swimming pool outside in the middle of October. It should not be warm enough for that to be happening. Our climate needs to be, we need to catch up to the climate change. We need to get that tree bylaw. I would quite frankly like to just burn the darn thing. I read it the other day. It doesn't serve anybody. It certainly doesn't. It offloads the expense onto the homeowners and onto the landowners. And it doesn't really address any of the real issues. We need to address climate change in a real meaningful way. And we need to rely on the experts to do that. It's not the trees really that are the problem, it's the people. And we, the people, need to do something about this. We need to do it yesterday, not today. I always go first.
Thank you, Rick Gardner. So protecting our tree canopy is extremely important, and the previous council recently passed a community forest management strategy that does call for radically increasing our tree canopy, and that is a fantastic first step. We need to go as the next council come in and ensure that is fully funded, that they have everything they need to actually implement these recommendations for preserving the tree canopy.
And then for Aldergrove, I think we can see it in the summertime, that if you're out on these fields, they're completely empty on hot days, and that's because there's absolutely no trees. It's so hot, it's intolerable. So many of our parks are not even being used because all the trees are cut down. And replanting is great, it's absolutely something we need to do, but if we could just not cut down all of the trees in the first place, that would be way better. It takes 100 years for a tree to regrow to its full mature height, so I think we need to not cut down everything. We need to identify this very early on, and we will need to advocate to the province with regards to the LR, which we do not have power over. Thank you.
I'm not gonna stand here and pretend I know that much about trees. That would be foolish. Now, there was a report commissioned by experts with recommendations in that report. So what I can tell you is that I will follow those recommendations and make sure that everybody on council is held accountable to that report, because we're all standing here saying we're gonna do this. So I'm gonna make sure that we actually are gonna be able to follow through with those recommendations. Thank you.
Carrie Waitress. We do need to use the tools that we already have in place. I do feel that the Tree Bylaw could go a little bit further. It does tend to lay more on the property owners, and it's not hitting where development is. That's a big problem to fix. I think we need to lean into the urban forest management plan. There's 5 goals on there that I think are going to be very beneficial as we move into using it more. As for the ALR land, it's going to take us advocating for that. We are a regulated community, so our tree bylaw and the forest management strategy is not going to be able to affect change there. But I do see the need to incentivize ALR lands to stay forested. I think that's the picture. Thank you.
Okay, on to question number 4, and that is, what will you do to enhance the walkability of Aldergrove?
Okay, I like this question. I like that one of the goals of the Aldergrove Community Association is to promote a positive and safe village atmosphere. I love how they refer to the term village. And I think that just creates a nice atmosphere. And I think having walkability creates that safe atmosphere. So I think Walkability has good walkability right now. I see lots of sidewalks with curbs, access to parks and schools. I think there's definitely ways we can improve it for safety of scooters, wheelchair accessibility, making sure you're able to access them on the curbs. Maybe another feature, we could add some more lighting so that it's safer to use at nighttime to walk home from parks and schools and businesses as well. So there's always lots of things we can look at to improve the walkability, but I think Aldergrove has a pretty safe community for walking as it is now.
Yeah, to improve the walkability, the first thing you gotta do is get rid of the trucks coming down Main Street there. You can do that through development and planning. If you look at the new Creekside development, they've got walkability built into that. Also, you can do things like the Alder Inn, that old site. You make sure that when that gets developed, you sell that off when it gets developed. It is one of the cores for making it walkable. And you know, you can do it with my stories where you can mix it, you know, residential, and you can mix commercial with it in that. So you got to get rid of the trucks to make sure you're going to be able to walk on the street.
Thank you for the question. So I think that walkability is really accessible. I remember when I used to be walking here at Old Drink, I got torn down. I used to walk down to the 7-Eleven all the time, and it was really easy, it was convenient. And I also remember during the Aldergrove car show that was happening recently, I walked from one end to the other end, and it's pretty accessible, but there's always room for improvement. And as development's coming, and the new development's coming, as Ted said right now, there's built in development, built in sidewalks, and we will encourage walkability. As Captain said, this is a village, and we are committed to keep the historicness to the community, and also create sidewalks for the community. Thank you.
It's always with more sidewalks and pedestrian space and life along the road. And also we need the real bike lane. And for the plan for all the new future construction, we said have a walking path around the construction area. And such a path should be separate from the road by the plant thread, whether it's grass or grass. So we need to make sure, because Aldergrove is a very special place, you know, most of the downtown areas are accessible, so we want to make sure it's a safe way to go anywhere they want, and then in the pedestrian space, kind of close to the street, but it has to have a certain space to walk with the kids and the walk.
Okay, question number 5. What are your thoughts on the current advisory committees and their task forces? And will you seek to keep them active and consider their input regarding township proceedings?
Yeah, I'm Stephen again with the Alder team. Yeah, one thing that I really like about this process is getting the feedback that the local associations, the local groups have given to us as councilors. Because in a forum like this, they're telling us what matters to you. This is where we get to listen, we get to consider what people in your community have said is important. So yes, I support these things. That's why I'm here, and will continue to support them throughout Langley, which is a community to community. It's a very unique area that way that we get to live in. Aldergrove is beautiful. It needs to stay that way.
A big fan of community advisory communities, and we would enhance and help you to be better more. Aldergrove's been a community built on these type of communities. We don't have a chamber of commerce anymore. We have one of these. It's been the community advisory groups who come forward with the ideas. Our Bertrand Creek Enhancement Society, I remember taking up garbage with my children when they had the days to clean up Bertrand Creek when they were young. This is a community of those type of groups that come together. Community advisory committees in a place like this particularly, because it is really unknown to a lot of the rest of Langley, but Aldergrove like what's here. And I think your input is critical to council and the people who want to be public life because of the work.
Over the last number of years, the advisory committees have gone through a number of different iterations. I generally like the way that it sits right now with the advisory committees we have. I think that they've been quite effective. The few that I've been on this last term have been quite effective, and the task forces, the Future Farming Task Force has been an incredibly effective group, and that's been really helpful. A couple of quick changes that I would suggest, though. One is I think that the Agricultural and Economic Advisory Committee can be split into 2 committees. One that focuses on agriculture and specifically in that area, and then one that focuses on developing the economic aspects of our community and really enhancing the business community. But also another aspect is that I really want to see us enhance the different community groups and community associations. So the Aldergrove Community Association is a strong group, the Fort Langley Community Association. I'd like to see those be embedded more with what council is doing. So they're not just community talking and discussion, but they actually, their ideas come to council and we consider their ideas. I'm disappointed that the first way the group has failed, and I'd like to see it return. Thank you.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the current advisory committees and their task forces? And will you seek to keep them active and consider their input regarding township proceedings?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question. That's actually a question specific to the council advisory committees, not community associations. So I'd like to see some reform of that particular process, because a lot of the time, sitting on these committees, we start to see resignations, we start to see apathy because they don't have a mission, they don't have a purpose. And so I think that they need to be reformed and overhauled, and I think that they need to be beefed up a little bit, just funding, but also recruiting specific experts in their field to sit on them, like we seem to have on the Heritage Advisory Committee, but don't see that across. And when we do form a task force, such as the development processes review that was done this term, sometimes we see that they're formed to prevent reform and prevent change and grind it to a halt. And so I would like to see that we not do that, and that when we do form task forces, they're done sincerely with people that want to achieve reform and change. And we haven't always seen that with the way some of these committees are used.
Okay. On to question number 6. With the emphasis we see today on development, what will you do to preserve the character and heritage of Aldergrove and ensure that it will not turn into another look-alike community such as Willoughby, Yaletown, or other modern urban centers?
Thank you. I think this is a really important question. We are very lucky here in the Township of Langley to have the history that we do. We have a lot of history in our community, and there's a lot of parts of our community that speak to that. And I think it's really important that we make sure as our role on council that we protect that. And that we ensure that through putting mechanisms in our OCPs and requiring these types of things to be protected and ensure that we're not making cookie cutters of other parts of our community, that we are really keeping that history and that feel of what makes each of our communities special. So I'd like to see that really actually put into the OCPs and really required so that we're not losing this history. I think the balance of the urban and rural of our history and our past is what makes our community so special. And I think we need to do what we can at the council table to ensure that we protect that. Thank you.
On walk all the way across.
Alex Joel, is the name. So if Aldergrove becomes another lookalike community like Willoughby, I think we've done a really good job of building more homes, which we desperately need in the township of Langley. Right now, Aldergrove suffers from the sprawl that the entire Fraser Valley has struggled with for eternity. And if we start to create more density-driven communities, we'll see that it is a desirable trait as opposed to a flaw. Residents that like their half-acre lots, single-family detached homes, they're still going to have those options. But we really need to start to look at how we get to a denser population. And I'm convinced that Aldergrove can be a success story. Thank you.
Going forward, a lot of people are going to say the same thing here. So obviously, I think this needs to be moving plan driven. We need to always involve that classic term stakeholders, heritage society, heritage advisory groups, community advisory groups, and Aldergrove Community Association. So public consultation is key. So we did the Brooksville Community Plan through a numerous iterative process. Try to say that in my class. So we need to do that. So I think it's good to go slow. We don't have to rush into these things. A lot of times we want to develop and want to grow very, very fast so that we get people homes. But we want to make sure that we have measured success. We carefully approach the development so it meets the character and the history of each community, especially Aldergrove. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Papa. So the first thing we need to do, obviously, is get all the stakeholders together. Business, residential input is required. And then at that point, we need to review the Aldergrove Community Plan and determine what reasonable guidelines for forming character it is that you want. What do you want Aldergrove to look like as it gets modernized and updated? Currently, the plan is intended to preserve the existing aesthetics. So if you're fine with the way that it is, then we leave things as they are. But if we get together and we talk about how we want it to look moving forward, then those need to be built into the Aldergrove Community Plan. And at that point, then obviously council and staff need to ensure that this is met anytime revitalization or developments are planned.
Okay, we'll move on to question number 7. Our creek has issues due to septic systems, dog waste, and agricultural practices that are sending high levels of coliforms, which are bacteria associated with feces, south of the border to the Nooksack River and impacting the traditional indigenous shellfish harvest in Bellingham Bay. What will you do to educate our community on this topic? And just for the creek, in reference with the Bertrand Creek.
Thank you. Well, when it comes to indigenous stations, my heart is deeply with them because there is some First Nation indigenous for me as a Colombian. We have to make a study. We have to, there has to be a report. We need to make a report. We have to do a study on what is happening, and then we will move forward to lobby or to educate people on how to manage waste. This is a very important issue because it's affecting the business, especially indigenous business, and we need to move faster on this. Like this cannot be happening, and I'm shocked that it's happening. So I think to lobby or to advocate in these issues is very important.
Barbara, contract finding. I want to start with, we support the work and the efforts of the Bertrand Creek Enhancement Society in your vision to restore and revitalize the creek through awareness, through public education, and through advocacy. At the council level, we need to ensure a long-term plan exists to preserve the creek and restore it to a reasonable level of environmental standard. Thank you.
Good morning. I came up from Washington State, and I realized a lot of the things that trickle down from Canada affect Indigenous people down there. And I think one of the things that we use, because I'm born and raised Alaskan, to keep our streams clean, was putting certain wildlife and plants around those areas so that the coliforms are weeded out. They don't have to go all the way downstream and contaminate a lot of the things further down into Bellingham, like they have been. There are ways of treating that. I come from a microbiology background, running scale hospitals for 22 years. So my background in these areas, not only with beach communities, I grew up on a reserve, it's a fishing community. I know the impacts of red tide, of waste, of clear cutting that has effects on all the things around them as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing these reports and actually seeing what's been done so far. I'm very thankful for the suggestion.
Yeah, so basically if the environment as an organism, these creeks are basically our arteries, and we have to make sure that we consult all the proper stakeholders. We need proper community consultation, including with the Aboriginal population as well. And aside from that, like, we just have to make sure that we take a science-based approach to this and make sure that we do anything we can to improve the situation.
We have an odd number, so Mr. Ferguson, you can answer this one as well. No, you can answer the same question. We have an odd number. No, I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna draw another number. We'll start somewhere on the table. You can answer the question.
Ready to go for number 8. Well, I have a septic tank, folks. My septic tank, I work with septic professionals. I think the best we can do is educate those with septic tanks, so those very challenges don't happen within the septic tank. But I did want to say, I, as a member of the Gateway of Hope, and I was involved with homeless shelters and helping homeless people. I've done it for some 10 years, but that was not the question.
Oh. Rebuttal. 30 seconds. Teresa Townsley, go.
I'll just stand here. And regarding the wastewater, we have this really incredible thing in the ag plan, which is the environmental farm plan. That's not very well known. It's an amazing program. We haven't taken advantage of the education about the environmental farm plan and the funding that goes along with it to prevent exactly what we're talking about the wastewater going into the rivers. It's a simple awareness issue, and it's well funded by the province, and it's part of my role as well as council with the Farm Institute to get that done.
Okay, so we're going to start with, we'll move on to question number 8. I'm going to start somewhere around here. It's going to start this time with number 7. Hang on one second.
Oh, yes.
Okay, question number 8. Propose to protect businesses that are impacted by homelessness and other safety issues.
Karen Morris. I know a lot of the homeless issues are caused by people that are dealing with mostly mental, physical addictions, PTSD. I don't think we address that enough. We will talk about truth and reconciliation till we're blue in the face, but what happens is trickle down effect to generations. So people that have not, either they don't have insurance, they don't know they can get the help, they refuse to find the help, or they're just completely lost. Or given up, because a lot of the people that have the mental issues, and I work in social services, have children removed, you know, and it's never great to feel like you're at the very bottom of where you can be in your life. So I think we should start first by offering some sort of services, counseling. You really can't work through any PTSD or addiction without addressing what got you there in the first place, and that's something that's overlooked by most of the community. Thank you.
Well, I think there's two sides to this question. So one is about homelessness. When it comes to homelessness, there's multi-pronged approach that you must take. So obviously you're going to provide mental health support. There's programs in Surrey like Part 67, which has been very successful. When it comes to protecting businesses, that's a totally separate issue, and I think we should focus on more visible policing. We're already striving to make public safety number one. We need police which are engaged with the community and more visible, and people that are more folk patrols, and not just people that are just hiding at the bottom of the street just giving out traffic tickets. So I think that's it, and the rest of my time I'll give to Steve, because he's very excited to answer this question.
I was chuckling a little bit earlier about the number. This is a very, very serious issue. I sit on the Gateway of Hope, and we deal with a lot of people and challenges. I'm on their board. I've been underneath bridges. I've fed the homeless. I've helped the homeless. I've done the best I can. But this is not just a problem for Lang. This is a problem for the province, the country. And what we need to do is get the resources, the proper resources for healthcare, for housing, for people working with people, for volunteers. We're all in this together. Because if you're a business owner or a property owner or a renter, it doesn't matter. If you're a principal of school, a teacher in school, it doesn't matter. This is an issue that we all have to work together to help those poor folks that are struggling. And some have drug addiction, some they're just plain homeless. But what we need to do is work as a community to help the homeless.
So the reality is it's a two-part problem. It's a mental health crisis, but it's a housing crisis. And so if we don't actually start to get to work on getting to the underlying reason why people are having to do what they do, we're never going to actually make tangible improvements. So that's the first place where I want to start. The second place is to make sure that those who are actually involved with these folks who are on the ground day to day doing the work have the resources they need. We have experts who know what they're talking about when it comes to issues like this. We need to actually defer to those people. We need to go not just locally, but provincially, kind of like around the world, look at the solutions that actually work on how to make that a tangible improvement in the state of people's lives. Because at the end of the day, if we don't give them the ability to succeed and get out of the situation they're in, then we are going to be dealing with the same problems. We're going to be having the same conversations in 4 years. We're going to be having the same conversations in 40 years. So we need to actually get to the root of the problem. It's a mental health crisis. It's a housing crisis.
Well, I think I was good. Awesome. Three rebuffs. I'm getting up to one. Okay, so hang on 1 second. This he's gonna have to take off. So we're gonna let Missy go first. Then we'll move over here.
Okay, so we need to fill the RCMP vacancies. We've got over 20. The second thing we need to do is reopen our community police offices. Aldergrove is currently closed. We need to staff them with sworn and civilian staff members. The third thing that we need to do is get people on council who live this world every single day, and that is Barb Martins. She works the downtown east side. She knows homelessness inside and out. She also knows crime and how to target and how to mitigate these issues. Not only with the contract with my team.
So you gotta take off something. You gotta head right here.
Thank you. Well, Ms. stole my thunder. That's exactly what I was gonna say as well. Aldergrove police station right now is closed and it's been closed, it's voted. And that's one of the first priorities at their full funding of policing and fire here. Also, as Mr. Pratt said, that it's not a two-step process. So first we will have to get these homeless people in facilities, and then after we'll have to have a program that will help them get better first. And then after they can get better, then they will get into housing.
Hello? Okay. As someone who was initially intended to go into policing, I come from a security background. I know that for any of these homeless to be proven guilty or to be put into jail, there has to be a mens rea and actus rea. The mens rea is the guilt by, the actus rea is basically the act. And the court cannot approve any mens rea if there is an addiction. So we need to, like, one of my plan is to build a rehabilitation house where we can put these people, get them with their addictions, help them with their addictions, and teach them a trade, where it's electrical, where it's carpentry, and get them to feel used.
So yeah, Steve, like I volunteered at the Gateway of Hope. Like it's real freaking easy to get in there. I was slicing onions, serving soup. Anyone here can do it, and it's serving the community. But what we need to do is we also need to get a local police force that is tailor-made for Langley, that will serve Langley better than the RCMP has done. And in doing that, we will find that we can both have respect for the people who are homeless, but we will also serve the businesses that desperately need people cleared from their business fronts.
Okay, question number 9. Our community is surrounded by agriculture. Our community is surrounded by agriculture-rich soils that can be a part of food security for carbon for climate change mitigation. What is your plan to support our local farms?
Thank you. So I'm very supportive of all the policies that we currently have. It's really important that we provide the opportunities for farm gates and other interests in the township of Langley, but most particularly in Langley and in Aldergrove, because Aldergrove is completely surrounded by the ALR. So this is like a prime opportunity for us to make sure that we have local farm produce that's available to our community. It also provides food security opportunities for people to take advantage of that, and people are being helped right away with that as an opportunity. To generalize, I think that there are more opportunities for that, but we need as a local government to understand and be able to promote local agriculture. We have a farm viability strategy, but it was created in 2013, so it is outdated. So I would look into advancing that and making sure that the policies are more in alignment with policies that have been updated, such as our climate action goals. Thank you.
AJ, before you start, one other point of clarification that came to, when you guys are answering questions, before you answer, just announce, most of you guys have announced your name, just announce your name before you answer the question.
Perfect, I was hoping you would change the question.
Listen, so this is a great question for me. I'm a blueberry farmer, and I'm hoping one bistro. We have vineyards in Okanagan, so agriculture is close to home. I don't think that we are fully doing a good job, to be honest with you, of promoting our local produce, promoting our farmers here. When we have issues such as, like I faced 2.5 years, 3 years, people to build a farmer's market or a bistro or a winery, when they're securing produce from their local Aldergrove farmers or South River farmers, how are we protecting them? And on top of it, also, we have policies such as only a 900 square foot secondary residence on the ALR that. If you have farm workers, if you have equipment, if you have a barn, you're not able to get these things done, how are you helping your farmers get their make money, but also get their product to market? And, I think with the exception of our local businesses like JD Farms and like the co-op and who are promoting local farmers, the rest of our farmers are going to, are going to canneries, things like that, and they're not getting their produce, their berries, their produce to local markets. So we have to help them do that as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret Kins. We need to support more initiatives that incentivize food production, ensure that our farms are viable and that the farmer is supported. Supporting a community of food producers includes addressing a lack of cold and dry storage space, especially for the small to medium-sized farmers that are harvesting their produce. This is a huge issue. I ran a couple of years ago provincially, and I met with a lot of farmers, and this is a real problem. They can't find the storage for their berries to the cold storage. It's very expensive. So this is something that, we need to help our farmers. We also need to publicize the environmental farm plans program. There's land leases and the government grants that can help with sustainable and viable farming. So these are things that not a lot of people are aware of that, could help some of our local farmers. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Coulter. So we as a team agree that we are not going to take any land on the agricultural land reserve that needs to remain used as it is right now. It's vital for mitigating climate change, and we need to encourage instead local markets and diversity of our crops within landing. With climate change in the way of the world right now, more and more places are going to experience things like food shortages and food insecurity. So we need to make sure that we're working with our farmers to give them the supports that they need to keep our citizens fed, as well as give them the education and grants and just work with them to make sure that we're doing all we can to keep our citizens fed with our local foods.
I want to use my rebuttal on this one. We have a growing problem in Langley, and that is non-farm use of agricultural land. We have to stop this practice. Agricultural land is cheaper than industrial land, and industrial land right now is going for $9 million an acre. So people are moving here, buying ALR land, setting up businesses with no intent of ever farming it. They just take the fines for non-farming it and then treat it as a cost of business. We have to stop this. Thank you.
So I agree, Kevin is totally right. There is a lot of uses of agricultural land which are non-farm uses, and they do need to stop. But then when we're stopping this, we also have to keep in mind that we should open up that industrial land in the appropriate areas so that there is room for the businesses that need this kind of land and mixed employment. It's better to keep these jobs closer to home rather than have these jobs. People travel to these jobs and they're burning more fossil fuels when they're getting there, and the trucks are going back and forth. So yeah, basically that's all
Steve Ferguson, contract with Langley. Surely, to goodness, Elevate Langley was not suggesting that we take land out of the agricultural land reserve and turn it into industrial land. Because that's something we as a team, the contract with Langley, are desperately against.
Well, I'll clarify if I need to use 30 seconds.
Elevate Langley does not agree to take any land of the ALR. There may be cases for swaps. If we need to, some folks want different roads at different places, that may need some trade-offs, but we're not going to remove that land from the ALR. And I fully support crop diversity in this community and value farming. So to be clear, Steve, I think you might have misheard, but we're not removing it.
We'll take agricultural land and turn it into industrial land. No one said that, Steve.
Let's move on.
Change question.
Okay, Question number 10. The Aldergrove Community Association House offers opportunities to increase access to healthy, safe, culturally appropriate programs and enhance food security. How will you increase the viability and longevity of this program?
Okay, first of all, I think we need to understand that of every tax dollar that's raised in this country, only 10 cents of it goes to municipal government. 90 cents of it goes to the federal government and the provincial government. We get 10 cents. And out of that 10 cents, we have to do fire, water, police, sewer, parks, roads. So we do a good job with the 10 cents that we have. My first thing that I think we should do with regards to this program is find out if this is a provincial download. If it is a provincial download, then we should be pressuring and advocating the provincial government to step up to the plate and do more to keep programs like this going. Thank you. Teresa Townsley. I took a look at the program. I think it's a very exciting program, and it's community-based outreach that needs to continue with the support that it already receives from the township. But the hub also needs the support of the community for things like healthcare and housing facilities for vulnerable individuals within walking distance or transit distance to add to the service they provide in the support of the community. And where possible, we need to, as councillors, support and facilitate fundraising activities for this project to draw more community services and even a farmer's market to integrate with the community in the area.
Hi, Scott Cameron with Bill Maine Langley. So I actually had a chance to actually kind of understand a little more about this program. They do some incredible things with their education and meal. Education meals. They also provide a cafe where you can print off resumes. So incredible help for the community, and that's something that I would support. I think we can find a way through the township team to support this financially in some degree. But like Teresa just said, we need to have some community fundraising events like that. That is what I do. That's what I do with the hospital, firefighters, society. So that's something I would definitely be involved in and look forward to serving.
I agree with everything Scott said. And everyone else as well. My name is Rebecca Darnell. I have looked up this program because I'm not familiar with it. And the first thing that came to my mind was the Foundry. Now, Township of Langley has done matching for the Foundry for money that they've raised. And we need to not only do that, we also need to get public-private partnership going. And we need to, as Kim said, get into the pockets of the federal and provincial government, and let's embarrass them into giving at least matching what this little town of Langley can do. So there's that, plus we need to connect it to healthcare and housing. So we need to have those connections within it. If we have a Foundry concept as well as, partnering with this program, we would have died bone heaven.
We have one rebuttal. Or two rebuttals.
I'm not arguing, I'm just gonna add to it. So I agree with Kim. I think that most people that got what the contract pointed out 10 cents that we received, but having advocacy and having the ability to lobby the federal government when it comes to experience. And that experience is in our team. I worked for the federal government. Many of you may not know the Aldergrove Community Pool. I was part of the ministry at that time. I worked to lobby for the $10 million that we received. So we and Tim Bailey over there has worked on the ledge. So we are going to need our fair share for the federal governments, but you're going to need the right people with experience to do that.
Thank you. Not so much a rebuttal, I just want to acknowledge that this program has had its degree of setbacks in launching in this community, and I think it's extremely important to people. And it provides a level of support for some of our most vulnerable people in Aldergrove. So yes, I support the fundraising options and ways of making this work. Thank you.
Okay, on to question number 11. Is there anything you would add or change to the Aldergrove core plan?
My name is Britt Gardner, and the Aldergrove Core Plan, I think, is one of those rare examples in the Township of Langley where it's really a fantastic plan. It was adopted, I believe it was back in 2011, and the problem with the Aldergrove Core Plan was that for the longest time, there was no action on it. Now that has changed with, we now have that wonderful recreation facility, we're seeing new development happening on the mall site, but I think we definitely need to revisit this plan and update it. Plans, even the best plans, need to be updated. I will strongly advocate on council that we update this plan, that we take a look at how we can achieve some of our goals with it, such as increasing our tree canopy, having affordable housing, and making sure that everyone has a place to live here and have good public amenities as well, once the community asks for it.
Can I respond? I agree with Britt that we definitely need to review the plan. It's been over a decade since it's been put in place, and things change, times change. And what I think we need to do is explore the community. And there's a lot of great ideas out there. People have ideas for how it can be improved, and maybe they see some issues with the current plan, but they're not getting a voice. So we need to open up the floor to the people to be able to come, give their opinions, and if it is feasible, we should be able to incorporate some of these ideas that we have. So that would be my plan. Audit it and review it, and basically get input from the community who's going to be actually living here, not just from ivory tower. Thank you.
Terry Peters. Again, I agree with it was a great plan when it was first put in place, but what I would love to see happen is a community plan to be put in place. The council has appointed one for the neighborhood plan that's being discussed currently, and what better way to have all the groups input than have a community plan team appointed to assist council in amending the current neighborhood plan. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Kathy McDonald with Elevate Langley. I personally think that Aldergrove is a little hidden gem right now. You guys obviously fought really hard for all the community centers you have, the new arena, the new pool. You obviously have a strong voice advocating for what you want and getting it delivered. So when we go to look at revising the plan, I'd go back to the community again, because you guys are the ones that built this plan and made it happen. So I'd go back to you and see what you want to keep doing for your future. Thank you.
Okay, on to question number 12. What would you propose be done with the former Alder site at 272 and Fraser Highway?
I love this question because I was involved in exactly this kind of a project with the firefighters burn fund. What we did was we built a multi-use building. First floor retail, second floor was to take care of burn survivors. Third floor was our offices. So we could sell this very valuable piece of property. We could put retail on the bottom, we could put offices in the next floor, we could put market housing, and then on top we could put subsidized housing for seniors. The key is you want to sell it to a developer that's going to make a mixed use that is going to fit in with the walkability and also help the seniors with some subsidized housing.
So from here with Elder Langley, I think Ted actually has a great point there that we need to actually come back to the community and the locals here and ask them what they need. And if it's a senior center with a big shop at the bottom, a mixed program of affordable housing, or whatever it could be for the burn victims, I think it's great ideas, but the most important is that our locals get a say in it. We do what our locals want and push forward for that. We're here to work with you guys, and Elder Langley is a team that will listen to you guys and will push for your guys' fights. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. My name is Michael Chang. I have some different rules, and I propose a former, the Alder unit 272nd. I want this site to be permanent site for the Alder player, and let's decide, the private developers how we kind of utilize it. But anything is commercial or residential, it will be, and it should be fitting with the director of Alder at this point.
Can I go first? And then you can provide me. Jerry, I'll take it on over here.
We've got a few, Rebecca, we've got a few rebuttals after. We have a few, at least a couple.
Great. Well, I'm Steven with the Alder Langley team. I'm excited to see two things. The first one is we all got excited talking about caring for the most needy among us. I mean, that shows enthusiasm for this community, specifically here in Aldergrove, but it is all throughout Langley, and we all do care legitimately about that. The second is, on a site like the Alder, and we have to take community feedback. Tim's idea sounds fantastic. I listen. We're not on the same team, but I'm here to listen and understand what the community wants for a site like that. It's a valuable piece of property. Maybe it needs to get sold. Maybe we need to do a mixed use thing. I'm not sure. I want to hear from the community. That's the key. I think most of us agree with that, and it's good to see we're all going to get along very well. So Elgin Langley on 15. And now you can reply. Rebecca. Well, we'll let you decide. Wow.
We got our Michael. Michael first. Thanks, Andrew. Michael Pratt. I've had a discussion and a plan for what we could be doing with the publicly owned sites and all the roads since the very beginning of the campaign. And the reality is that if we want to stop relying on taxpayer dollars for every single item we want to spend money on, we need to have ongoing revenue sources outside of property taxes. So we should not be selling the Alder site. We should be signing a 99-year lease with a private property owner, or working with the province or the federal government, bringing an actual institution to that site so there is a permanent revenue source. I look at a post-secondary institution, a satellite campus, a place to draw people to the community and help them process.
Katrina Arneson, I agree with that. Actually, I think it needs to be the subject of an RFP as well as community engagement. We need to rejuvenate the site, but it also is a taxpayer-owned site. And I think it's very short-sighted and not a good economic move for the township of Langley to continue to sell lands. A 99-year lease would provide an opportunity so that we could have the fundamental services for housing, we could have it for a daycare, we could have all sorts of opportunities on that site. So it really gives us the benefit of appreciating land value that we can maintain over time.
On that. Rebecca Darnell, I am one of the 50 women of options. And if you Google that, you will see that we have just raised over $2 million for housing, second stage housing for women and families at risk. We are building that right now in Surrey. There is no reason that we can't have the 50 women of Aldergrove raising that kind of money to get this built, and do it by way of a nonprofit. Let's partner up with options. Let's get it done. And let's, especially it would be wonderful to give back to women, given the history of that particular property.
Great partner. I must echo my fellow candidate, Michael Pratt, down there and say that I'm absolutely against the practice of selling off public land. Once you sell something, you will never get it back. We need to stop doing this. This has been business as usual. The township of Langley, public land is sold off for private profit. We can sell it once, we'll never get it back. We need to stop selling it. We need to use it. There are other ways we can use it. I will absolutely advocate that we keep our public land assets public. Thank you.
On to the mayor. Okay, question 13. Youth growing up in Aldergrove are isolated due to our community not being in close proximity to other communities. What do you have to offer Aldergrove kids and youth?
Rich Coleman, thank you for the question. When this building was built, it was built because at the time people wanted a youth center and a hall for kids so they could do other stuff here, the dances and stuff in the youth center. And the youth room was actually built to come back to the building. The needs for youth change by generation. If you walk this community and you see the facilities that it has compared to what it had 38 years ago, it's an amazing pool, arena. all the activity that takes place back here. Aldergroves are a lot. And I know that there's a study going on, I think it was Parks and Recreation started, the committee has started to study about the youth in Aldergrove and what their needs would be. And I think when it comes to youth, you really need to listen to them. If you've got the basics here, but a lot of the skateboard park, and those things that need to be upgraded. But there are other activities they may want to do. But at the same time, the generations entertaining themselves differently, a lot more electronic entertainment for them than it was when children were here 30 some years ago. So I think we've got to sit down and see what they really want and try and put together a plan with them. And we have to just get that.
Oh, Blair Whitmarsh. This is a great question, and certainly we know that the 6 distinct communities that we have in Langley, it does make travel around the community very difficult for our youth. And Aldergrove is certainly one of the communities that's on the far eastern side of the community. The first thing I think we should do is start looking at and encouraging other transit options for our youth to be able to get around the community. Encouraging transit to come to Aldergrove in a more aggressive way would really help the youth. It helps all of us, but it certainly helps the youth to be able to move around from one community to another. But I also agree that the process that we're going through in finding out what youth really want in their community is a great next step. It's difficult for people, myself, 50 years old, to be able to tell a youth what they want. I'd rather hear from them to tell me what they want in their community. We've done that in other communities and want to continue to do that here. And yes, there are lots of good things here, but we want to continue to do that. Let's listen to the youth and find out what they like.
Thanks, Eric Woodward, Mayor with the contract alignment team. I think we started very early in the campaign in August, making it very clear that we want to do a substantial upgrade to the Aldergrove Community Center. And that will start with the youth senior center with an indoor recreation expansion and a great facility. In consultation with the community before it's proceeded, not after, it's what occurred with the Aldergrove pool. And I think that that's really important that we still have that option at all by stopping a $10 million parking lot adjacent to the ACUCC, which was attempted by the current council. And now we at least have the option to do that. Contract related team is going to get it done. We're not going to use property taxes to do it. And we're going to do a great expansion of the ACUCC for Aldergrove youth and seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle Sparrow. Many good points. I just wanted to add a few things to it. I think we really need to look at how we're supporting our youth. It's important for daughters. But I think we're also needing to support some of these external organizations that are doing amazing work in our community with our youth. And I think we need to, as a municipality, look at how we can support them as well. I think obviously ensuring that we have funding for our recreation center where we're having staff to be able to provide these services and run these programs is really important. And I think some of these options of reaching out to our youth to find out what it is they're needing is important also, transit and that as well. So I think it really is about listening. I think it's about working collaboratively with other organizations in our community. And I think looking at what youth outreach workers are doing in communities, our neighboring communities, I think is important as well. My daughter is a youth outreach worker in Surrey, and she deals with troubled youth in that community, and I think those kind of programs are very important. Thank you.
Yeah, Tim had his hand up first, so did you already use it? Oh, there you go.
Billy, this plays into the strength of our team, as we also have school board people on our team, and meshing school board activities after school in the area will help keep the latchkey kids from being vulnerable to gangs and that kind of stuff. So we can build very cheap facilities that the schools can use during school time, and then after school time, block them off, no one can get them until 5 o'clock at night, and put positive role models like firefighters, cops, junior hockey players in there with those kids.
Karen Maurice, the Township of Langley Recreation Center already have these programs because I've worked in the programs themselves. But I think what we really need, because everything is so far away, Seattle had done this that worked really well, and it was called the Health Sciences Bus.
And it was a bus that you could take for free that went to all the hospitals, because I worked in the medical, to go to different facilities for work without having to pay and transfer. I think we put something like this together because I run programs for required bus driver. I know we have vehicles that can do this, and have them run the bus between all of our rec centers so that all kids can access everything.
Greens, total board, running as an independent. So I've talked a lot about this videos, my campaign and the need for getting new stuff and this type of idea. So look, this was South Aldergrove Park years ago, and it's been growing and growing in 4 diamonds. There's so many things that Aldergrove has. You can't stop necessarily the feeling of isolation. But what we can do is educate people, educate Aldergrove citizens to understand what they do have. In our schools, these schools have tremendous murals at Betty Gilbert and Aldergrove Community Secondary School. There's a lot here.
Great, question 14. Surrey, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, and Agassiz have permanent fairgrounds. We need a permanent site for the Aldergrove Fair with added buildings to be used by the community all year round. What are your thoughts on that?
So as Vice President of the Valley Bowl Hockey Association, this year I made my referee debut at the Aldergrove Fair. We put on an exhibition, it was a nice event. Having said that, this is not a priority for me to have a permanent exhibition fairgrounds. We need to have appropriate water for North Langley. We need to have a local police force that properly serves us. And we need to have a municipal ambulance service that is going to supplement our failing public healthcare system. So while I really appreciate the idea of the fairgrounds, I mean, one of the best things we can do is we can advocate for a ward system. A ward system where here municipally, we will elect a specific Aldergrove councillor. And that Aldergrove councillor will speak for all of Aldergrove. And they will be able to implement whatever ideas you want and work with council to get it done. So if we get me elected, I'm going to advocate for a ward council, a ward system, and in 2026, we can get somebody elected for Aldergrove. Thank you.
Tony Ward, I answered a little bit of the one and other reasons to hear that. But look, Aldergrove is fantastic. Aldergrove Fair is second to none. And I don't know what, I agree with Alex here. I don't know about getting a permanent site, but just because Surrey does it or Chilliwack does it or Abbotsford does it, doesn't mean that we have to secure that on that massive cost. Unless we have something that's viable adjacent to Aldergrove Athletic Park or somewhere like that. Yes, it does need another really tractors in on the field, and then we have to take them back and we have to do turf management. But other than that, I'm not sure what the idea is requiring lands for this fair, even though it would be cool. Thanks.
Okay, this kind of stories runs into the building, and I can emphasize with my colleagues. I was living in Aldergrove Fair, and I really enjoyed it. It's a great place, great gathering. But as I say, as it was said before, we have to provide for Nancy and Walkability with a great water system. We have to fulfill the expectation of the RCMP. We need full-time firefighters that are required as our main focus, and this is not priority right now. Even though I want to give you my love and support, it's not something that is a priority for council right now.
Hi, Barb Marks with Contract Planning. So it's something to consider. I'm always open to ideas and suggestions. I think a lot more thought needs to go into this. We need to consider alternate revenue streams. We need to look at the impacts on the community, traffic. It needs to be part of a greater plan. So that's my non-committal response. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Any rebuttals? No. We'll move on. We're gonna do a yes, no. We've got some yes, no questions with show of hands for everyone. Well, we do have one other question. We're gonna do the yes, no, no answer. We have time. We're gonna come back to the last question. If we give everyone 30 seconds, we can try to go around and have everyone. So yes, no, show of hands. So Ed, when I ask you, you raise your hand, just stick your hand up. So we're doing yellow on webcam as well. So we'll just go ahead and response. So question number one. Aldergrove needs effective ambulance service, especially given the construction of a large new seniors residence on 272nd Street. Stories of elderly stroke victims having to wait 1.5 to 2 hours for critical intervention are becoming too common. We have a fire hall staffed by qualified people. Show of hands if you will support the idea of a township designated auxiliary service operating out of the Aldergrove Fire Hall. Thank you. Question two, the boundaries laid out for Aldergrove differ between the Aldergrove Community Plan and the Metro Vancouver Regional Growth Strategy. Show of hands if you believe Aldergrove should be kept within the Aldergrove Community Plan boundary and preserve the agricultural land reserves surrounding Aldergrove. Perfect. Question three. Our community is serviced by one TransLink bus line and one BC Transit line. The employment lands just north of Aldergrove in the Gloucester Industrial Estates or the zoo aren't accessible by bus. Show of hands if you will lobby for more bus service for Aldergrove. Thank you. Question number 4 for here. Attempts to make a bypass around Aldergrove have failed in the past. Would you lobby Abbotsford and the provincial government to divert traffic to a new on-off ramp at either Lefevre or Bradner Road? Thank you. Would you lobby the provincial government to 4-lane 16th Avenue to make a connection from South Surrey all the way to Abbotsford? Okay. We did have one other question left over. The number of candidates we have. So what we'll do, but we still have a good amount of time. Is I'm going to give everyone, I'll maybe start on one side over with Alex, we'll work our way around. I'll give everyone a quick 30 seconds to respond. That should give us enough time to get around to everyone. So that's question number 15. And that is, on the surface, it seems like Aldergrove recreation activities are canceled for other Langley communities. The public skate is routinely canceled due to staffing issues, and Active Beyond the Bell was canceled for all Aldergrove schools. What will you do to fix staffing issues and make amenities more accessible to the people of Aldergrove?
So staffing issues don't only affect government activities throughout the township of Langley, though they were particularly slow in reopening because of staffing issues, but this is just the private sector is suffering from it too. Like I work for one of the major retail grocery stores in Canada and here in Langley, and I have trouble hiring people. So I'm not really comfortable with increasing the wage, which is what's necessary to really draw people out of their homes. So I'm not going to suggest that we do that.
Hey, Tony Ward here. Yeah, on the surface, it doesn't appear that COVID definitely shook things up. Like some things were closed and never reopened. Cloud out the parking in Murrayville area was one example of that. And some of the staffing shortages from auxiliary staff. Like I did this 30 years ago. It was a skate cup. I got programs, all sorts of things. There were 3-hour shifts and 2.5-hour shifts. How are you going to make that work when you're trying to get your life back or whatever? So it's a challenging thing. We've got to get staff first. And then
do the programs, but the programs definitely need to be in place. And they are.
I believe we have to allocate funds to employ the youth. These are facilities that are running basically youth for youth, or you can say students for students, because this place is basically used by young people. So I would think we need to allocate some funds so we can employ youth and keep them busy and keep them going.
Hi, I'm Barbara from Contract Lighting. We need to work hard at hiring more staff and reinstating programs like Active Beyond Health. Every community is equally important, and that includes Aldergrove, and we need to look after the children in our community. Thank you.
Karen Morris. I was an auxiliary for the council and lost my job when all facilities closed. It went straight across the board. Pretty much everybody who worked for the township as an auxiliary, because as an auxiliary, you get 11% increase in your pay in lieu of benefits. I didn't need benefits being indigenous in status. But I gave up my job right away to people that I knew relied on that position. If we could get something in place for lifeguards so that they get a very huge discount in training and guaranteed hiring, we could get them back. If we start training for high fives and other courses, we could definitely have them come back and expand.
Yeah, so Langley is a community of communities. Us at Elevate 90, we support all communities, not just wherever there's density. We want to support all the Grove too. Staffing is, we're all small business people. We all have real world experience. So staffing is something that we dealt with ourselves and we can easily deal with. So we'll make sure that we have adequate staffing and we have adequate programs to serve our community.
Steve Ferguson, contract with Langley. I want everybody to say, yeah, put your hand up, put your card up. I'm a facility user. I've been a facility user for years. Eric Woodward and the contract of Langley team. We have an aggressive program for community development and recreation. We need to bring back Beyond the Bell and bring back facilities, bring back our staff. And that's for our youth, seniors, and other families as well. That's important to our team.
Like the crack. The reality is that anybody who has had the responsibility of hiring people knows. If you want to hire people, you have to make it an attractive place to work. And that comes with two parts. One, the actual workplace culture has to be there and a place where you want to be. So we actually have to bring back respect for those lower ranks of staff that actually they are valued members of the team. We need to also make it an attractive place to work in terms of the benefits and the wage. We need to actually attract people to work for them if we want to staff these programs. Speaking of these programs, we need to make sure we're being proactive and actually advertising them and getting into the community if they are available so we can have people who the staff can actually work.
Between artisans, so I'm very supportive, I'm sure as others are, to take proactive measures to ensure that we're actively recruiting the necessary personnel that we have. So this action, I think, should include looking at our existing pay scale. So I'm not averse to that. But I also think incentivization without any pay, so just providing training as it was suggested, is a really good idea. We need to attract people so that we can be able to fully function with our recreation facilities. There was also part of the question that talked about accessibility, and so I assumed it meant about financial accessibility. I support that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So just quickly, obviously there's where the salt shortages everywhere, that they have problems. Multiple levels of government have to look at how they can increase and attract, whether it's minimum wage or industry, increasing their pay for a specific industry. But I want to just agree with the youth aspect. When I was younger in high school, we had programs that talked to us about being lifeguards, like WC Blair improvements, lifeguard WC Blair swimming lessons, having knowledgeable, especially with the community that
Hi, Margaret Vincent, independent candidate. I think I have maybe a solution. I think that we should have a hiring fair in Aldergrove and that we should hire people from Aldergrove to work in Aldergrove. And I think the passion that they would bring to the job, that this is their community. And I just think that that is something that we should do. And we should do that in all the communities so that maybe there would be a little bit more of an incentive to actually show up for work and there'd be some excitement around working in the place that we live. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Filter with Alder Langley. As a small business consultant, and the rest of my team is small business owners, we are all familiar with the struggle of trying to hire people on post-pandemic landscape. None of the pools, arenas, after-school programs are running at full capacity because of this program. And when it comes to the youth driven empowerment and mentorship programs that I created myself, the most important way that we can get the youth off the streets is by involving them into the community. So we need to make sure that these things are running at full capacity. And as Margaret said, we need to try and attract people from all the local here. And we can provide. Yeah.
Actually, I really like Margaret's idea.
Thank you.
I support that. I think the issue that we have is we're dealing with the 10 cents and we have to be responsible with how we deal with it. If we're not bringing even on these programs, should we really be putting these programs in place, especially if they are any sort of a prevention down? So fiscal responsibility is important.
We need Parks and Rec staff, absolutely, and so let's sponsor people to take the training with the caveat that the sponsorship is free if they come and work for us for 3 years. That's one of the things in connection with the job fair. We can continue that, we can get people into the job for the length of time that we need to make it work.
So I can remove the LB Langley. So it sounds like we're starting to work towards building a hiring strategy here for the township of Langley on the left side of here. So what I'd add to that is just making sure it's a multi-generational housing or hiring strategy where we're targeting people in different ages, communities where they're actually going versus just kind of building up on the website and hoping they find it.
I think that most of what everybody has said, Rebecca Darnell. We need staff, they need to be paid, they need to be adequately paid, they need to be able to get there. That means they need to have buses, we need transit. Transit taxes us right through the gang. It is absolutely appalling. When you go to pay parking, it's 24 to 28% taxing that goes to the transit. We need to do cost sharing with the township, province, and especially with transit. Transit needs to pay us back.
Greg Gardner. So our staffing issues in the township of Langley can't be blamed on COVID or tough times. This is something that we've had a cultural problem with not valuing our staff and our public recreation and the role that plays in the broader community. So I think it's time we change that culture, that we invest in our facilities, that we invest in our staff, and we recognize that these are good jobs that people should be able to support their family on. And I think it's really, really important that we talk to staff if we're wondering why they are not clamoring for these positions. Thank you.
Can't respond to many good answers. I'd like to get to the table over here. I think what we need to do is review the current wages and make sure that we're competitive with the market. That's where we're going to start. Second, we got to get more creative. Perhaps there's some kind of incentive that we can provide to the staff, whether it's the youth, maybe they can get credits for programs from schools, stuff like that. We just got to get creative, and we definitely need to just review what we're doing right now because these are very important things for the community. And if these things die down, they're going to be dead forever. And we don't want that to happen. Thank you.
Carrie Quicker, everything's pretty much been said. We do have to address the staffing issue, whether that's looking at wages, maybe making sure that you're guaranteed a certain number of hours a week. If you work in one shift and it's 3 hours, that's not what you do or we're going to go elsewhere. And also looking at creative ways to run programs that maybe we can amalgamate in one location in one of the schools, but you're going to go on another spot instead of just like 4 different schools with each of their own program. We need to start getting creative to deal with the problems that we have, whether it's enrollment or those staffing levels. Thanks.
Donald with Elevate Langley. Down the block from my house is a local grocery store, and she employs about a dozen teenagers from the local high school. They work there after school, on weekends, they have a sense of purpose, they're in a paycheck. It's huge for them socially. My son likes to go to the bakery every Saturday, I don't know why, but I think that youth that have a young job with other youth will enjoy it more and will get a sense of what it's like to join the workforce.
And we had a contract with Langley. I started working as a student. And grade 11 and grade 12, we can work with the school board and we can have a work experience program because so many kids, when they go out into the workforce, have no experience, and that's why they don't get hired. We also have universities that are local, and those kids also need to supplement their income for their tuitions and that. So work with the school board and the universities to get student employment.
So, Bill Langley, thank you, just great ideas across the board here. Bringing youth into the facilities we need is understaffed across the board. We're over 200 people understaffed at all the rec centers here. We need to get the youth involved. We need to bring the youth into our homes that we have here. Me being at least hockey with Aldergrove Community Association, I have opportunities to do and take advantage of those opportunities. So I support the ideas and we need to start elevating them together.
Yeah, my name is Michael Sheng, and I have a few events with the Business Association. That's what the song is always in the department. Even for the public sector, the sector is that busy. So we have to look at the different perspective of, just try to get a wage structure and open the transfer of benefits and provide a better work, condition. That way we can attract more people to our communities and
My first business was called Backcheck, and we had to hire about 30 people a month in order to staff up. We had 400 at our peak, so I understand hiring challenges. Generally, you listen to your employees, and they're going to tell you what you need to do to attract new ones and to keep the ones you have. Often it's a retention problem as much as it is a hiring problem because of culture, because of wages, because of availability or access. They all have to be looked at. So it's actually a lot of listening to people around you.
Well, Margaret's right about having a job there. Reality is, Aldergrove is not alone in this system right across the entire township. We need to offer stability, we need to offer training, in multidisciplinary ways so people can get full-time jobs with benefits and they'll stay in the township for their entire careers for longer. I think it's important that we provide that atmosphere where we go to the community, we meet people, we find them close to the jobs so they don't have to travel too far to go to get a job in this community and service. People township do a great job.
Larry Marsh, independent candidate for mayor. I think that certainly lots of great ideas here. I would be fully supportive of some kind of subsidized training program to make sure people can get trained, particularly our youth. I'd be supportive of a partnership with the school board to create internship types experiences so students can get those practicum experiences prior to entering into the job force. And I'm certainly supportive of public transit I've mentioned before for people to get around the community so they can have access to these jobs in a much better way. Thank you.
Eric Woodward's, I'm going to bring the question back to what it was about, which is actively on the bell, cancel here in Aldergrove. We're going to change the culture where Aldergrove programs are the first shop, first of all. Second thing is the active on the bell program is dear to us as a team. We're going to reform the program. We want to staff it and increase resources within it by allowing EAs or people in the classroom to get full-time hours as part of that program with the township. And this is why we continue expanding school board and the township council. We're also going to reform the program so that it's drop-in, doesn't require significant pre-registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle Sparrow. After 30 really great comments, it's hard to add anything new, so I'll just sort of touch on a couple points. One, I agree with looking at incentives for training. Other cities are doing this. The city of West Van is addressing their lifeguard shortage, which is affecting municipalities across Canada. They're looking at actually providing that training for free. So I think it is about looking at ways for us to support that. I think it's looking at the culture as well. Is that already
Any rebuttal questions?
No.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. And I'll use it. I just was going to say, I think think that this is also about looking at the value that these programs bring. It's not necessarily about looking at the fiscal dollars and cents of it. Sometimes there's a lot of these programs that don't actually make financial sense, but it's about the value that it provides to the members of our community. And I think that's a really important way of us looking at things, not, check and balance, because a lot of times those programs that are really most impactful are not the ones that are making the most money. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate everyone showing up. I appreciate all the candidates coming out tonight. I know it's been a tough go around. Are you serious? So, I just want to congratulate you guys on all your campaigning you've done out there. It's been a lot of fun. You want to add? Good luck to all of you coming up on Saturday, and best of luck to all of you.